Hello, everyone. Just letting you know the free and equal debate here at Freedom Fest will be starting very shortly. I know there's a lot of background noise. I'm just letting you know that the debate will be starting up and we'll be recording that. Just like with RFK, I'm going to let this run live. I'm actually taping as we speak. I'll be back after the debate is done. People like you just wake up and not be true. Go ahead, live in with home. The rich man knows the richness, Lord knows, all just wanna know what you think. Know what you do. Don't think you know. Know that you do. Dollar hate shit. It's personal feeling. Bitch. Bitch. These politicians look out for money. I'm just miners on island somewhere. Lord, we got folks in the street. They got nothing to eat. And the whole beach will be welfare. God, if you're 5'3" and 300 pounds, don't like the bait. Might you bug around till you put them down and feet in the ground. All the damn country does is keep on taking them down. Lord, it's a damn shame. What the world's got to do? People like me, people like you, wish I could just wake up and not be true. But it is. Oh, it is. Living in the world with the Lord.
Presidential debate live here at FreedomFest in Las Vegas. I'm Christina Tobin, one of your moderators for tonight. We will start in just a moment, but first, let's give it up for Miss Santita Jackson.
Oh, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last what stripes and bright stars through the perilous night, for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly stood, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in every proof to the night that our flag was still there. Oh, saved our star-spangled banner. controllers of the United States from 1998 to 2008, with a record independent and a truth teller. And I want to mention a few things before the debate gets started. The United States is a great nation with unparalleled economic, diplomatic, military power globally, as well as cultural influence. But our rich. The United States is not exempt from the laws of prudent finance. The government is understating the seriousness of our financial challenge. It's not 35 trillion, it's $125 trillion. In addition to that, if we don't end up putting our finances in order, then our economic security, national security, and domestic tranquility will suffer over time. I'm hoping tonight we'll get some questions asking the candidates what do they propose to do to put our finances in order. The two major presidential candidates have failed so far to answer that question. And the second thing that they need to do is, how are we going to save Social Security? Because if we do nothing, we have a 21% across the board cut in benefits in 9 years. That's unacceptable. It's un-American. So let's look forward to hearing this tonight. If you want to do more, if you want to hear more about the contract from the American people, there's an 11 o'clock session tomorrow with Joe Pillin and myself. Thanks again for being here. May God bless America.
All right, well, thank you, Dave, so much for your support. And tonight, we are at the third stop of our presidential debate tour here in 2024. And every candidate on our stage tonight knows the struggle of entering an election gate-kept by the two-party system. They face tough ballot access requirements, legal battles, corporate media blacklists, and exclusionary debates. But even in inclusive debates like ours, some candidates still refuse to recognize or debate those outside of their circles, despite voters clearly wanting another choice. Today, more voters than ever identify as independents. It can be difficult to debate people with whom you deeply disagree, so free and equal debates require honesty, respect, and courage. Instead of personal attacks, tonight's candidates are asked to defend their ideas on their merits. Tonight is for the hard-hitting questions and answers to the problems we face as a nation. This evening, we will address the pressing issues on voters' minds: the economy, foreign policy, immigration, and more. We are honored to host this debate at FreedomFest, a gathering celebrating freedom and open discourse. It provides the perfect setting for a robust exchange of ideas. Stay tuned until the end when we announce how you'll be able to vote for the winner of tonight's debate. Before we meet our candidates, it's an honor to introduce my co-moderator for tonight, U.S. Congressman, Kentucky's 4th district, that is, Representative Thomas Massie.
Thank you. Bravo. Thank you.
Tonight is the first time in history that a sitting congressman has moderated a presidential debate.
Yeah.
And there's no better person to get down deep to the issues than Mr. Representative Massie, right?
Yeah.
Right? Come on. So, Mr. Massie, why did you agree to moderate this now historic presidential debate tonight here at FreedomFest in Las Vegas.
Well, let me tell you why I'm very interested in this. Before I became the hardened partisan you know me as, I voted for a Reform Party candidate for president. I voted for a Constitutional Party candidate for president. I voted for a Libertarian Party candidate for president. And in deference to our Hreen Party candidate, I've been described as the greenest member of Congress. So I'm looking forward to this debate. When I got to the House of Representatives, I wondered, why is there just two parties? And then I realized they have carved in granite and marble and oak and mahogany, only two sides to the debate. There are two cloakrooms and only two cloakrooms in the House of Representatives. You've heard of the smoke-filled back rooms? There are only two smoke-filled back rooms for every hearing there is. And you've heard the term bipartisan. Some days I feel transpartisan. I don't know which cloakroom to go into. And I'm not welcome in either. Ostensibly, there are two parties in Congress, but I want to offer three rebuttals to that. Number one, there have been independent members of Congress. One is Angus King, the senator from Maine. Another is Justin Amash. Now, it's hard to get out of that two-party system, so Angus King would caucus with the Democrats. But Justin Amash refused to caucus with anyone, and he called Angus King an INO, an independent in name only. The second rebuttal I want to offer is there are actually 6 or 7 parties in Congress. We just shoehorned them into 2. You've got the Freedom Caucus, you've got the Squad, you've got the Tuesday Group. There are voices within the two parties who are begging to be heard, who are oftentimes suppressed. And I think you'll find representatives of each of these parties, even though they don't have those letters beside their names, in Congress, but they can't come out and say what they really are. The final rebuttal I have to the fact that there are two parties in Congress is a lot of days, most days, there's only one party, the Uniparty. Oh. Tonight we get to hear from 3 people who are not in the Uniparty, and that is why I'm here.
Thank you. Massie, I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors, Jill from Texas, and our broadcasters, and of course FreedomFest for being our partner tonight. And I'm going to be introducing here with a cumulative format. We're going to start with the format tonight. We have the cumulative format was originally created by the League of Women Voters. We have a 2-minute opening, 2-minute closing statement. We'll have about 7 questions, give or take, where there's a response of 2 minutes each, and then a lightning round where they'll have 1 minute to respond. And the order was by random drawing, so I wanted to welcome our first candidate on the left here, Mr. Chase Oliver. And someone not new to the free and equal debates, Dr. Jill Stein. Mr. Oliver with the Libertarian Party, of course. And finally, Mr. Randall Terry with the Constitution Party. So we're going to open up with a 2-minute opening statement. Mr. Chase Oliver, please.
So first and foremost, I want to say thank you for having us on the stage here at Freedom Fest. I think it's a great time for us to talk about freedom here at a stage full of those who are fighting for it, who are advocating for free market solutions, free exchange of ideas, and free people. Now, I'm a libertarian because I believe that the government doesn't do a whole lot right. They don't do a whole lot well, and we could do a whole lot better if we had our own agency, the most local governance, self-governance guiding our lives. I'm a candidate who fights for the peaceful solutions, the peaceful exchange of ideas, and to not use violence to push our ideas forward. That's two-party stuff. The two-party system insists on using the force and violence of government to push their ideas to the American public. I think the American public can do a heck of a lot better job deciding for themselves. Now, right now, we're in a country that has many crises facing us. First and foremost is a debt that continues to grow and spiral out of control. We just saw the deficit get up to $1.8 trillion this year. Now, I don't see that it's on, but Congressman Massie usually wears the debt clock. It's rolling faster and faster and faster towards $40 trillion plus of debt. And that's going to affect our kids and our grandkids all over the country as they try to seek their place in the world. It's going to affect their prosperity, and it's affecting our prosperity right here and now. Because of the debt and deficit spending of our government, That is what creates inflation. When the government prints trillions of dollars out of thin air, it devalues the dollar that is in your wallet. That devalues the dollars that you take to the grocery store to fill up the grocery cart, the dollars you use to pay for your rent, the dollars you use to run for your business. And it's time for that to stop. We have to be brave enough to say no more debt and deficit spending, no more government out of control, and no more violence here at home or around the world, certainly not at the expense of the US taxpayer. I'm somebody who's going to fight for the free market solution, for the freedom solution, and for the right for all people to determine for themselves their own future. If you're not hurting anybody with force, fraud, coercion, theft, or violence, your life is your life, your body is your body, your business is your business, and your property is your property. It's not mine, and it sure as hell is not the federal government's. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much again to Free and Equal and to FreedomFest for tonight's debate, including candidates that are outside of the Uniparty. And this is, in fact, what over 70% of Americans are calling for. It's time that we make this the norm, not the exception. And thanks to everyone who's here raising the bar. My name is Jill Stein. I'm the presumptive nominee for the Hreen Party, a people-powered party that does not take corrupting money from corporations or from wealthy elites, not from corporate PACs, super PACs, dark money, or other loopholes for legalized bribery that runs our political system. We're in this election to fight for working people and marginalized everyday Americans who've been thrown under the bus too long. We're the only pro-worker, anti-war, anti-genocide, climate emergency campaign already on the ballot for a majority of voters so we can truly contest for power. We're calling for an America that works for all of us, and we offer solutions to achieve that now, such as cutting more than half of the huge military expenditures that are squandering over half of our congressional budget in the endless war machine that is impoverishing and endangering all of us. We'll put that money instead into urgent needs here at home. We'll enact an improved Medicare for all that covers everyone comprehensively and saves $500 billion a year by cutting red tape and bureaucracy. We'll push back on the housing crisis with national rent control, a tenant bill of rights, ending the private equity takeover of the housing supply, and building quality social housing. And we can pay for these programs through savings in Medicare for all, cutting the military budget, taxing the rich, and reviving a productive economy. The need for deep change has never been so urgent. The possibility of that change has never loomed so large.
In October of 1984, I was standing in front of an abortion clinic in Binghamton, New York, and a woman was walking up. I walked out to say hi to her and said, "Are you going in to see the doctor?" She started cussing me out like a sailor. I said, "I'm sorry, I know this is awkward, I know it's embarrassing, you know, it's difficult for me too." I'm walking alongside her, she's yelling at me. I said, "Look, if there's anything I can do to help you, please, please tell me if there's anything I can do." She stopped right at the door of the abortion clinic and looked at me and said, "Did you say you would help me?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "I prayed this morning, God, if you don't want me to have this abortion, send someone to help me." I was there. I was the answer to her prayers. We left, and I was with her. I was the only adult with her in the hospital when her baby girl was born. She named her Tila. We adopted Tila. Tila became a flautist, a singer, a dancer, a piano player. She was a princess. And suddenly, without explanation, in January, she died of a massive heart attack. 38 years old, left 4 children. But before she died, we were talking on the phone a lot and texting, and she was so excited about this campaign. She said, "Dad, use me as your poster child. Use me as your poster child." Because she hated abortion. She knew that there were millions of Tilas that were already dead and millions more whose lives were in jeopardy. And she wanted to save them by making abortion illegal again. I know there's people in this room and those watching on television who participated in the death of a child by abortion. I'm not here to condemn you. I pray you find mercy and peace and forgiveness through our Lord Jesus Christ. But I'm telling you something. I have a message and a mission. Blood talks to God. And the blood of 65 million innocent babies is crying from the ground for vengeance. And one of the reasons we are in so much chaos in this country is because of the blood crying out to God. So the motto for my campaign is defend children, defeat the Democrat nominee, and destroy the Democrat Party. Thank you for letting me be here.
Every candidate has up to 4 rebuttals expansions throughout the debate. They can use it any time throughout the debate. So we're going to start with our first question tonight. Mr. Chase Oliver, the question is, 4 candidates, including 2 independents, a Republican and Democrat, declined the invitation to participate this evening. What would you say to the candidates who chose not to debate tonight?
Well, I'll start with the first 2. That'd be the Democrat and Republican, Trump and Biden. I know you 2 men are afraid to actually be in a debate stage. We're going to argue about something that's more important than your golf score, where you're actually going to have to be coherent and actually have to defend your ideas. And I know that makes you scared. But don't be afraid, because there are other candidates who are willing to get on this stage. You see 3 of them right here. But there are 2 more that were invited to participate in this debate that want to be an independent outside of the 2-party choice for president for you. That didn't take the time to come challenge those ideas on the debate stage. Speeches are great. Speeches are fine. But it's so much better when you can challenge and defend your record and defend your beliefs on the debate stage. That's what the American people want to see. They want to see the passion. They want to see the fire. And if you're not willing to get on a debate stage, I have to question your commitment to actually wanting to be the president of the United States. So my challenge to the 2 independent candidates and frankly to the Democrat and Republican who aren't here tonight is get here next time. Don't be a coward. Don't practice the hubris that says, this is too beneath me. This is just the B team. The truth is if you're waiting to be on a debate stage that will only include Donald Trump and Joe Biden, unless you're Donald Trump or Joe Biden, you're going to be waiting a long time because the 2-party system shuts you out. Each of us on stage recognizes this. And we take every opportunity we can. There's a huge group of people in this room that want to hear from a presidential candidate. Why can't you get on the stage and debate? And that's my challenge to both Robert Kennedy, Cornel West, Donald Trump, and Joe Biden. Get on the stage. Defend your ideas. This is the real debate. This is the real debate where people aren't afraid to answer the questions, where the questions aren't being controlled by a corporate media that wants to spread discourse and division amongst this country. This is a real debate where we're going to answer the questions plainly, honestly, and with our own true convictions. And that's something that Donald Trump and Joe Biden can't do anymore. I don't know if it's their advanced age or their inability to tell the truth, but they just can't do it. And Robert Kennedy and Cornel West, you should be on this debate stage with us, uniting the parties together, saying no more to the 2-party system. And if you can't do it, you're just as bad as the 2-party system. Get on this debate stage, you chicken.
Thank you. Dr. Jill Stein?
Well, I'll agree with all that, and I'll say that one thing about the free and equal debates is that we have very different opinions, but we're all very respectful of each other. We're not tearing each other down as people. We're learning from each other and respecting each other's ideas. That's not something that we hear on the debate stage with the Democrats and the Republicans. We hear them hurling tomatoes at each other and tearing each other down and arguing about their golf scores and ridiculous things like that, distracting from the real problems that the American people need to be talking about. And that's what we're doing on this debate stage tonight. And I would note that the 2 candidates who are not showing up tonight, the 2 independents, have never shown up for debates, though one of them pleads for open debates, but is not willing to do that himself. And I'm talking about RFK there, who's been pleading with Trump and Biden to debate with him, has even challenged legally, but is not willing to extend that courtesy to his fellow candidates. So this is a problem. The American people, we know, demand open debates, so it really is an affront to voters and to democracy, and it does demonstrate real inability to stand up and to defend your ideas. In particular, RFK says that he's a peace candidate, but he very much supports the genocidal war in Gaza. And I would like to ask him, how can you describe yourself as a peace candidate? Are you saying that the war against Gaza is not a war? That is a war, and has the potential to explode like some of the other worst wars, like the war in Ukraine. Both of these are wars that could go nuclear, that are expanding, that are incredibly dangerous right now. And RFK needs to be here to defend his policies. He also claims to be against the big money system, but he's very much a part of that big money system and has a super PAC, which last I heard had about $50 million in it, contributed largely by two people. So I'd like to hear how that is, you know, how that is outside of the system. So yes, stand up and defend your ideas.
Terry?
All right, so we'll start with questions. For Bobby Kennedy, you made chickens, that's all right there. You made chickens that you used at the where you wanted to go after Biden and Trump. They wouldn't let you on the stage. So my question to Mr. Kennedy, since he doesn't want to be up here with us, is can we just recycle your chickens? Maybe cut them up and make them into Bobby McChickens. I don't know. All right, for Trump, here's my question. You see that as you've toned your rhetoric down over the last few weeks, your poll numbers have gone up. Do you wish you had learned this lesson sooner? For Cornell West, who does your hair? Help a brother out here, would you? And then for Biden, Joe, how many fingers am I holding up? Four, the creepy whisper. Now to the serious questions. Dr. West, you know the numbers. 12% of American women are African American, but 36% of dead babies by abortion are committed on Black women. It's grotesquely out of balance because abortion was always targeted at Black people and at minorities. It is Black genocide, and Cornell West knows it. And how can you possibly tie it together with other issues? To Trump, thank you for giving us judges that overturned Roe versus Wade. Thank you. But why did you mock DeSantis? Why did you throw the babies under the bus? Why did you change the party platform? Do you really want to wade through the blood of innocent children to get back into the White House? And to Biden and to Kennedy, my question is very simple. How can you possibly betray your faith? You say that you are Catholic, and yet you have betrayed Jesus Christ, you have betrayed the children, you have betrayed innocent blood. And do you not fear God that you will face him with blood on your hands if you continue down this path?
Thank you.
That's my question.
Appreciate it. Just to clarify, the chickens were funded by the super PAC by Kennedy, not his campaign, the LNC. And yes, both of them were invited to this debate tonight. I hope that they will be leading our debate this September. So I'm glad that they came and spoke here at FreedomFest, and I hope they'll be at our 4th debate this September. So, Congressman, the next question is yours.
All right, thank you. How would you fix the inflation crisis affecting cost of living? Things like fuel, food, and housing. Dr. Jill Stein, let me go first.
Great. So it's very important when spending money into the economy, that money actually create growth in the economy. Because if simply throwing in dollars and you have a fixed pot of goods and services, you're going to drive inflation. So throwing money into the economy without actually growing it is not a good thing. So simply providing corporate tax breaks, or for that matter, the military expenditures have been hugely inflationary, and that is now costing us $1 trillion a year on our military budget, yet that is not actually growing the economy. We need to also trim our expenses, and we need to cut the fat from healthcare in particular. In healthcare, we're spending over $4 trillion a year, quite a bit more than on our military budget even, 4 times as much. Yet we know that 1 out of every $3 in healthcare right now is spent basically on bureaucracy and paper pushing. And by moving to a Medicare for all system, we basically trim the waste out of healthcare. And doing that, we can actually save $500 billion a year at the same time that we massively expand healthcare. Because right now, so many Americans, 87 million Americans, do not have health care, either lack it entirely or are inadequately insured, cannot afford their pharmaceuticals, cannot go to a doctor or an emergency room when they're sick. We have a healthcare crisis, yet we are wasting so many of our healthcare dollars, spending twice as much in this country per person as we are in any other, in the next biggest spender actually, around the world. So we can do much better with our healthcare dollars, and we can trim them enormously. Likewise, the fat in military budget. Is that budget actually making us safer and more secure? No, it's actually impoverishing us and endangering us all around the world while draining $1 trillion. So we will cut the military budget in half and ensure that our dollars are actually used productively.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Randall Terry.
I am a musician, and when President Biden started pumping hundreds of millions and billions of dollars into people's pockets so that we could sit at home during the manufactured COVID crisis, he saved the largest big box retailer of musical instruments in America. They were in bankruptcy. And everyone got money, and everyone was staying at home, and they went out and bought music instruments. They had them sent in the mail, and it was great for the music industry. And the price of instruments went through the roof. There was massive inflation because all this money was pumped into the economy. We saw it happen with housing again when all that money was pumped into the economy. And people started saying, I want to get out of some of these really dangerous cities. Here's what I fear. Everyone in this room, because of our reading of Libertarian and sound economic theory, understands we need to go to real money, not fiat money. We need to get away from fractional reserve banking. We understand these things. The issue is this: we're in uncharted waters in the history of the entire human race. There has never been this much debt, and never has this much debt been tied to fiat currency. So let's say that we did move towards gold-backed currency or towards real precious metals, however that would work, try to transfer enormous sums of money. We would have a debtor's hell because the opposite of inflation is deflation. We don't know how this is going to people. One thing I believe that we need to do without question is to have complete, utter, total energy independence. If we had our own oil, we have the greatest reserves in the world. Drill, baby, drill. That is my motto. Put the pipeline in. We should be paying $1.90 a gallon for gas. We should not be slaves to Saudi Arabia and live in a fantasy world that we can somehow put solar panels on our cars and make them drive. Yes, we want to move in that direction. Ultimately, that is not where we are today. And today we're being choked to death because of the amount of money we are spending on fuel. So I apologize, I'm about out of time. The answer is, I don't know what we're going to do. And history is going to record.
Thank you.
Bad people make bad
Your
decisions.
time is. I wish I had my gavel that they gave me in judiciary.
I've seen a lot of gavels in my life. Guilty. Take him to jail.
Jay, was that his rebuttal that he just used? Jay Sullivan.
How do we boost the economy and get our economy back on track? The first thing we need to do is stop putting money into the hands of Washington, D.C. central planners who decide these things for us and returning that to individuals to make decisions for themselves. Because the most powerful market force is the trillions of individual decisions that Americans make each and every day in the marketplace. The worst hindrance to that is central planners in Washington, D.C. deciding where your money needs to go, what it needs to be invested, and picking those winners and losers. So that's what we have to do, is get ourselves out of the way. Get government out of the way of innovation. That's what will boost our economy. Reduce the debt, reduce the deficits, and you have to do that by cutting spending. You can't just cut taxes, because when you cut taxes, you create deficits which drive up inflation and is a hidden tax on every single American. So not only do we have to cut taxes, which I would love, but we have to cut spending, and you do that by being brave enough to grab the third rail of American politics, Social Security and entitlements. We have to get these under control or remove them entirely. Why? Because my generation right now, I'm paying every paycheck I get into a Social Security program that will be completely bankrupt by the time I'm retired and need to retire. It's a better idea to sun down that program to allow individuals to save themselves and actually have a real retirement. But in every single facet of our economy, the government does too much, makes too many decisions, and moves our money around. My grandfather used to tell me the government will tax you $1 and give you a dime. That is because of the inefficiency of the government bureaucracy, the red tape, and the bribery that happens at our government level. And it's time for that to stop. How do we boost the economy? We get the government back down to size. We're small enough to fit in the palm of our hand and let each and every one of us make the decisions for ourselves, how best to live our lives, spend our money, and contribute to this economy. That will create growth we have never seen in this country in my lifetime, because we've never seen someone who's brave enough to actually cut spending in my lifetime. And it's time for that to change.
Thank you.
Expansions on that question before we move to the next one.
Well, I can't resist. So, I would question the notion that we're all gonna fix these problems ourselves in our own individual worlds. How will you fix the problem, for example, of PFAS, which was emitted particularly by the military, but also by corporations, and is now in our water supplies everywhere. It's actually in your blood, it's in your body tissues, and we're now discovering that there are very serious problems here. Are we going to expect suddenly all the manufacturers of PFAS and everybody who's incorporated it in their products and using it on military bases, suddenly it's going to go away? I don't think so. You can pretend there's not a climate crisis, but good luck. What does it mean when it's 120 degrees here in Las Vegas for days on end? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You can pretend that it's the moon or the solar cycle or something, but we've got a number of confluent problems here that really do require that we remove the CO2. And you can, there is a solution to your. Oh, I'm over my. Okay, sorry. Okay, I could go on a long time about that. Thank you.
I just want to quickly respond to that. Giving us our own individual agency doesn't mean that we're not going to form ourselves together and solve problems together. Just because I don't want the government to do something doesn't mean that I don't want communities to gather around themselves and do it themselves. Now, when it comes to poisoning air and water, I agree with you. We need to have clean air and clean water. When a company poisons a community, they should be able to sue a company without any tort caps. Let a citizen jury bankrupt a community. That'll be a clean record incentive to make sure it's never happening again. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to put that in the hands of bureaucrats to say, we can only allow this much poison in our water and that much poison in our air. I would rather individuals do this through the judicial system, hold companies accountable, sue them, take them to court, have a citizen jury bankrupt these companies, but when we remove tort caps, because right now, when they pollute, they get a slap on the wrist. And who created those caps on torts? The government. Remove those tort caps and let individuals sue the hell out of these companies and clean up our air and water that way. But we can do so much outside of the realm of government needing to organize it for us, from everything from helping those suffering from addiction, helping those who are less fortunate, helping to provide housing for those who need it. We can do that without the government telling us how to do it.
One of the core concepts we're debating is, where was the Savior born? Bethlehem or Washington, D.C.? Because so much of what is crushing us is government regulation, government employees. I feel like I'm having deja vu when President Reagan said, the worst thing you want to hear is, hi, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Yeah. Some of us are old enough to remember that, right? Exactly. So one of the greatest things that we can do to boost the economy is fire government employees. The biggest employer in the United States of America is the federal government. This is insanity. Let them go into the real world, have a real job, produce some goods and services, and that will boost the economy. Like the Declaration of Independence said, Thomas Jefferson said they've sent large swarms of armies to eat out our substance. Our substance is being eaten out by these massive tax burdens that we pay, and a huge part of it is going to federal payroll. So I agree with everything that Chase said. Yeah.
So much.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's all right. Thank you. All right. We'll move on to our next question. Global tensions are rising. How would you ensure that our actions promote peace and prevent escalation, that is, towards nuclear conflict? Randall, sorry. Louder?
Your mic just died.
Got me there. All right, we're all set?
Oh, here.
You wanna ask the question?
I'll ask the question. How about that?
Yay!
Global tensions are rising. How would you ensure that our actions promote peace and prevent escalation towards a nuclear conflict? Randall Terry.
Well, I think that it was a disaster for us to get in at the level that we did with Ukraine. Ukraine is not a part of NATO. Every time I hear Biden tout NATO and tie it to Ukraine, I think, are you out of your mind? Ukraine is not in NATO. First of all, discussing whether or not we exit ourselves from the entanglement of NATO is a valid discussion. It is a valid discussion. But I am with President Reagan on this one. Peace through strength. Peace through strength. The way you keep a nuclear war from happening is to make the enemy believe that this would be a disaster for you to attack us. And then full steam ahead with creating an Iron Dome of the United States of America. I believe in the ability to shoot down missiles from the sky and not kill our people in our cities. There you go.
Well, I think the first way we start promoting peace is ending the war machine that exists around the world that's backed by the United States. I got started in politics being an anti-war activist opposed to the Bush wars during the war on terror years because I saw a war in Iraq that was manipulated by CIA data to bring our troops into harm's way, and it killed thousands of troops, it killed and displaced millions of Iraqis, and now we have tens of thousands of military veterans who have suffered from suicide due to the trauma they suffered from the United States war machine. So as Commander-in-Chief, the first thing I'm going to do is signal that we're removing our military footprint from every single continent. We are not the world's leaders. It is not our job to fight wars all over the world. It is not our job to exacerbate conflict in the world. In fact, the best way that we can promote peace is through free trade, free markets, and actually engaging in free commerce and voluntary exchange with nations around the world. Because if I'm selling something to you or I'm buying something from you, I don't have a vested interest in shooting at you. And that's the way we change this. Right now, we've been exporting our values around the world with the bomb, the bullet, and the drone. And it has led to further tension against the United States. It will eventually, as Ron Paul and others have said in the past, it will lead to blowback if we continue this. We have to end the war machine and promote peace through actually saying we are not going to be dropping bombs on your kids anymore. That's the first thing that we need to be doing. How many Iraqis are dead? How many people see their kids dying around the world? How many kids have died in Gaza today in the Ukraine war because the United States has exacerbated the conflict? It's time for us to have a new foreign policy vision, one that is rooted in actual free trade and diplomacy with our neighbors, because that's the way we engage with our neighbors here at home. We engage in commerce and discourse and respect of one another. We don't shoot our neighbors just because we disagree with them, and we need to make that the policy of the United States. No more war, end the war machine, end the death machine all around the world, and support peace. Thank you. Dr. Jill Stein.
So we currently have a foreign policy based on militarism. There's a name that the Pentagon gives to its military policy called full spectrum dominance. It's sort of strength, peace through strength taken to the nth degree, which is that the U.S. shall dominate all potential spheres of conflict, all competition across the world in all possible domains, in the sky, on the land, on the sea surface, under the sea, in cyberspace, and so on. And this has led to so many conflicts where we are basically seeking to dominate. And we see now ourselves really on the verge of potentially nuclear conflicts in 3 areas around the world. In Ukraine, where we are fighting a proxy war, which could have been avoided had we simply respected the promise that was made to Gorbachev at the time that Germany reunited, and we said we're not moving 1 inch to the east. And it was well known that if we did move 1 inch to the east, we were going to be treading on Russia's border. And I just want to make the point that what Russia is doing around its border is exactly what we did when Russia moved its missiles into Cuba, and we had launched the nuclear missiles. Fortunately, our leaders had the good sense to talk with each other and to use diplomacy. They don't seem to do that now. They seem hell-bent on using basically competition weapons and showing that I'm tougher than you are. And we're now moving up this escalation ladder right now in both Ukraine and in Israel, which is absolutely terrifying. Remember that 1 nuclear-armed submarine contains the equivalent of 5,000 Hiroshima bombs. And we have 14 of these nuclear-armed submarines. And the US, unfortunately, dismantled 2 of our major nuclear treaties. It only takes a few of those weapons to trigger nuclear winter. It doesn't matter that it's over there. It affects us all. Just 1 nuclear sub would basically wipe us all out.
Thank you.
Nuclear winter. We need to back off. We need to abolish nuclear weapons altogether.
Randall Terry, did you want to rebut?
The issue is peace and justice. You can have peace and you can have tyranny. So there is such a thing as just war. And there are times where we have to fight. We have to kill people. World War II was a just war. And part of the problem with people who just want to rail against war is that they're perfectly content to let other people have the heel of oppression on the back of their neck as long as it's not on our neck. And they damage them with faint applause. But it's true. So we're in America. We don't have to worry about what's going on around the world in the way that they have to worry about it. But there is the concept of the Augustinian theory of just war. We have wars of retribution. We have wars where we go in and deliberately kill tyrants and we leave and we let people be free. Part of the problem that we've had is that our foreign policy is not based upon human rights. It's based upon deep water ports and on oil. That's what our foreign policy is based on. And so that's going to always screw the little guy in another country.
Thank you.
So I would argue against the notion that any war that we're engaging in right now is a just war, because these aren't wars that are, first off, not declared by Congress. They're not legal wars. They're not wars that are actual wars and military wars. But secondly, these aren't just wars that are fighting out the altruistic nature of wanting to help people around the world. These are wars for profit. These are wars that profit a military-industrial complex that makes money by killing people all over the world. And we allow our tax code and our budget to fund these things. Frankly, Boeing, you can build something else. Raytheon, you can make something else than bombs. I am so sick and tired of saying we have to kill people around the world to make our economy strong because we make weapons components in these random congressional districts. That is BS. That is justifying the murder of innocent people for the profit of the military-industrial complex, which you don't get profit off of. They do. And so if we want foreign policy and freedom and peace, we have to examine first why we're not having that. It's because we have the military-industrial complex that makes the money off of the debt, makes the money off of the misery. And I can think no more unjust, disgusting way to make money than to do it by killing innocent people around the world.
It's not only, so I'll use my
Go ahead.
second.
Yes, please. You have a minute.
Yeah, it's not only that there's profiteering off of debt, but this is what's driving the wars in the first place. You have the war contractors who are lobbying, who are providing campaign contributions, who are providing jobs, and they're basically ginning up a war industry. And the minute you end one, like when we withdrew from Afghanistan, there was supposed to be a peace dividend, but what happened? Then suddenly we were in Ukraine. Ukraine for really no good reason at all, nothing that benefited the US. So this is basically a foreign policy being driven by, as Dwight Eisenhower said, by the military-industrial complex that is making money by creating war, and we need to stop it.
Your mic is dead.
Okay, is this better?
Yeah, we can do
Okay, wonderful.
Get closer to it.
So for a commercial here, we'll be having a commercial now from our sponsor, Jill from Texas. Thank you.
You're a self-made man, very successful. Your organization is releasing a contract called A Contract from the American People.
They applaud your spirit and your self-started spirit. You've done that in the world of business, but now you're doing that in a bottom-up way, changing this country.
We had good meetings today, one with the speaker. They're really more on the things than what America thinks they are. You have grandkids and you're concerned for the future. That's why you're speaking up about this stuff. America's tired of it. They've had enough. And somebody needs to bring it to their attention, and that's what Jill from Texas is doing.
Okay, I've got the next question here. We've seen foreign influence and control of U.S. food and agriculture grow significantly in the past several years, especially in meat processing. Do you support the U.S. food supply becoming more independent? And how would you protect the autonomy of American farmers and the security of our food supply? Chase Oliver.
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is quit attacking family farms by supporting giant agribusiness via the agriculture market. We parse out favors and benefits to giant businesses that the average family farm is not seeing in this country. And now I support independent farming. I support us having a free market and people being able to buy land and use it for what they wish. But I think what we have right now is we have a system where government picks winners and losers at that level. I don't like seeing that. When I talk about free food that is free from foreign influence, what I see is the giant breadbasket in America, where farmers all over this country want to produce the food that people want to eat, and we are. To me, I'm not one to decry foreign investment in American businesses, certainly not in American farms. Why? Because just because a Chinese business is investing in an American farm doesn't all of a sudden we go to war with China. Hey, that land will all of a sudden belong to China, belong to Chinese business. I support foreign investment in every agriculture, in every industry. I support free market investment everywhere. I think we should be able to invest our dollars overseas as well. I think when we create barriers to invest in agriculture or any other industry, we're creating winners and losers via the central planning market. I am not one who wants to do that. So I'm going to support farmers by getting the government out of their lives, reducing the cost of actually running and operating a farm by reducing the red tape and regulation that exists to run a farm in states all across the country. I would like to see that. But broadly speaking, we need to get the agriculture department out of picking winners and losers. It's plain and simple as that.
Thank you. Dr. Jill Stein.
I would just add that we need to get agribusiness and corporations out of the business of buying our government and lobbying for policies that are then very destructive to local communities. And I think we need to restore family farms. We need to restore community farms. We need to restore farming cooperatives to enable farming communities to come back because they've been decimated by the takeover of the corporate farm. And yes, government has been bought. Government has definitely been bought in just about every way. And the combination of government and corporations is deadly. But if you just remove government, then you're just going to have corporations. So, you know, I think what we need is a government that's on the side of the people, that is controlling corporations so that we can have farmers farming their land. We have real issues in farming now related to the exhaustion of the water supply, and aquifers are drying up out from under farms. As I've been going around the country, I've heard in every state enormous problems that people are having with water now. And this again underscores why we need to get our fossil fuel emissions under control so that we can begin to regulate our water supply and also the heat and the drought. Right now, the Colorado River is about 1 year away from drying out. The Washington Post had an article last year that described the Colorado River as the doomsday scenario because it almost has run out of water to get out into the pipeline where it supplies half of the fruits and vegetables in the California agriculture system, supplies half the fruits and vegetables for the country. And we are seeing that dry out because of the drought. So, you know, again, these problems are complex. I wish we could just make them go away by closing our eyes, but we both need to bring back our small farmers, but we also need sustainable methods of farming.
Thank you.
The Roman Senator Cato, at the end of every speech, would say, Carthage must be destroyed. So he'd be talking about roads or infrastructure, sewage, or clean water coming in, and at the end, your time is up, Senator Cato. Yes, thank you very much. And Carthage must be destroyed. So what I want to say is the Democrat Party is the new Carthage. The Democrat Party must be destroyed. And if you, say it everyone, the Democrat Party must be destroyed. So if you look at the government stranglehold on every aspect of our lives, literally every aspect, whatever department you want to talk about, especially the Department of Agriculture, small farms, large farms, I lived through the decimation of milk farmers in New York State. New York State used to be the second largest milk production state in the Union. New York State. And the government decided it would be better to get rid of small farmers and just wiped out everyone who had 50 or 100 head of milking cows. So we must look at where these policies started. Most of them came from the Democrat Party, thinking the bureaucrats were going to be smarter than farmers, and then beginning to put stranglehold on farmers, incentives to farmers. We'll give you money to not grow crops to farmers. As Chase said, there's going to be winners, there's going to be losers. But at the end of the day, maybe what we need to talk about, ready? I want to do my creepy Joe whisper. Let's prosecute Monsanto's. We have to come to grips with the fact that we have one of the most unhealthy societies in the world, physically. Our life expectancy, heart disease, becoming so obese. Our food chain is becoming poison, and it's people who are involved in genetic manipulation, people that are trying to get, God knows what they're putting in the pesticides. It's not simply because we're using so-called fossil fuels, it's because of bad people who want to make a lot of money, and they don't care what happens to those of us who eat their food.
Thank you very much.
And the Democrat Party must be destroyed.
about organization. All right, we're going to move on to the next question. This question is by independent media, Kim Iverson. Should lobby groups who advocate for policies specifically benefiting foreign nations, such as AIPAC, be allowed to donate money to political campaigns and the influence of legislation and policy decisions? Dr. Jill Stein.
No, they should not be allowed to donate to political campaigns and otherwise influence policy decisions. And I think we're talking about AIPAC in particular, and AIPAC should be required to register as a foreign agent. And that would effectively shut down the inordinate influence that AIPAC has on behalf of the state of Israel. And, you know, I think it's not fair for the state of Israel to have an enormous lobbying force on Capitol Hill. There are many people in this country who will advocate on behalf of Israel. But, you know, there are also people in Palestine who deserve to be heard as well, who are suffering, who are the victims of an incredible genocide that the world is in agreement with right now, that genocide should be shut down. That genocide is violating international law and human rights. And unfortunately, because of the inordinate amount of money, I think it's $100 million that AIPAC is spending in this election, we do not have an adequate discussion and a debate because it's become politically toxic to even speak out about this critical war that is murdering. It's not only some 38,000 people who've been killed, according to the journal Lancet that just published last week. It's more like 180-some thousand that are actually being killed in this war. And if we have, you know, concerns about a right to life before birth, how about a right to life after birth? And slaughtering innocent children. All right for Hamas. We should not be the victim of this horrific, absolutely horrific and shameful war. It should be stopped immediately. Joe Biden can do that with a phone call to Bibi Netanyahu.
Thank you. Thank you, Jill.
There's no chance in heaven or hell that Joe Biden could stop the war with one phone call to Netanyahu. Not a chance. It's not possible. But I digress. Should foreign lobby groups be allowed to donate to campaigns? Yeah, if we want to self-destruct, I think it's a great idea. No, of course not. But there's an overarching issue here, and that is that money has so utterly, completely corrupted our system of government, we may never recover from it. We are being controlled and manipulated by a handful of billionaires right now. That's what's going on. And any single one of us on this platform could kick Joe Biden's ass in a presidential race. We could win. Any single one of us could beat him. But what? We don't have the billions of dollars, hundreds of millions and billions being poured in to buy television and radio ads and newspaper ads and drop mailings and internet and all these things. It takes money to compete with money. And because of the Supreme Court ruling and because of the money corrupting the system right now, we are watching the demise of true representative government. What is happening is that people who are elected are representing the people who have the strings, all right? That's what's going on. So if we are going to see the restoration of representative government, we are not a democracy, but a representative republic, we're going to see that, we are going to have to change the laws on campaign finance. It's just that simple. And then President Trump and President Biden, you know, guess what they're going to do? They're going to come on the stage and they're going to debate with us because they don't have billions of dollars being poured in through the back door to promote some of their malarkey and their insanity. Oh, and by the way, the Democrat Party must be destroyed.
Thank you, James.
So I'm going to be frank and honest. Powerful interests have always controlled governments from the beginning of time. This is why government is immoral and why we should strike government down as much as possible. But the truth is money is speech. And it is. You have the right to spend your money and try to influence people as much as you want to. But what I want to see is full transparency of who's putting that money and where it's going to. So if we should change anything, we should make the process more transparent to see who is buying and trading our congresspeople. Now, when it comes to AIPAC, I want them to be just as transparently exposed as much as anyone else. Because they are. They, like every other lobbying group, are trying to purchase influence via the money in the electoral process. Doesn't always work, though. We actually are sitting right here on stage with somebody who had a lot of AIPAC money thrown against him. His two primary opponents got so much AIPAC money, he was outspent a lot. But the people in this community knew who he was. They knew exactly where he stood, and they stood by him for that. Money does not have to equal success in this country. You can actually fight the good fight, put your principles forward, and be honest about who you are and who you're representing. And when you do that, you can win race even if AIPAC puts money against you. Now I'm going to be someone who is honest with you. The truth is we do have too much money in our politics. We have too many billionaires controlling things. But why is that? Because our government is so powerful and controls so many things that it attracts people who want to use their money and power to influence it. And they do so with the monopoly of force that government enjoys. I would much rather see government chopped down to size and see these people have to peddle their influence in a true free market without the monopoly of violence backing up and see if their ideas can really stand the muster of a free market of ideas. I don't think many of them can, and I think that's why so many people are so interested in keeping the government large, abusive, and intrusive in our lives because they know they could never win in a true level playing field.
I just want to respond to Randall's statement that Joe Biden could not shut down this war. And he has enormous power in making that phone call, just like Ronald Reagan did when he told Israel to stop its invasion of Lebanon and stop the missile strikes in Lebanon in the 1980s. The war was stopped that day. Dwight Eisenhower did the same thing in the 1960s, speaking to Israel and Britain and France, who were all invading Egypt. He made the call. And the reason that Israel respects that call is because Israel is completely dependent on U.S. weapons and U.S. dollars. So Israel has no Iron Dome without continued U.S. support for that Iron Dome. So Israel knows that it is a sitting duck without the support of the United States. And it is actually illegal for the U.S. to provide the weapons and the support to Israel now. It violates three U.S. laws. We cannot send
All right, Jill, thank you.
military aid to a country that is
Jill.
interfering
Please,
that are
Randall, do you have?
with the delivery of
Jill,
humanitarian
your 1 minute is up.
a country that is violating nuclear weapons treaty.
Jill. Okay, Randall? Randall, would you like to?
First of all, this is not the 1980s and it's not the 1950s. And what Israel is enduring from Islamic terrorist attacks is something that they intend to deal with, and for just cause. The laws of the philosophy and the creeds and the law, Sharia law of Islam, is the greatest threat to human liberty on the face of the earth. It dwarfs communism. It dwarfs communism. I have a master's degree in international terrorism. I've spent years studying Islam, the history of Islam. It is a threat to the human race. I digress. That's not what I wanted to respond to. Just weights and measures. You know, you made a good point that transparency would be wonderful in elections, but you got people that are sitting there on their phone all day long. Yeah, do you really think that they're going to say, you know, I wonder who spent the money on that egg? Martha, go look for me on that one. I know where money came from. That's the Koch brothers? No, they're not going to do that. We're being inundated with money, and having a little full transparency, that is not going to correct the problem. It's a form of ongoing bribery.
Thank you so much. Chase.
I just have a quick rebuttal here. First thing I want to say is, you know, if we support life, right? My question is, you know, Israel has a right to respond to a terrorist attack. I think if that happened in our neighborhoods, any of us would want to respond to it. But the nature of the response that so many people across this country are having a problem with. It should not cost tens of thousands of innocent people to seek justice for those who were killed on October 7th. That is not a just war. That is not a just action. It should be far more surgical if you're going to go after those who perpetrated October 7th. But my question is how many dead babies is it worth to justify October 7th? How many dead children are there in the state in Gaza right now that you feel is justified on the actions of what happened? I feel that one child being killed in an airstrike is too many. And here's the truth of it. I want the hostages released. I want to see hostages released. But what I also want to see is Israel to stop airstriking where the hostages are likely to be, because that will kill them. I would like to see kids stop being bombed. I would like to see true peace. It does not come from capitulation to Israel's wishes and Netanyahu's government.
The next question. We're going to start off with Randall answering this one. How would you put an end to the child sex trafficking epidemic in the United States? Randall.
Number one, kill, execute the people involved in kidnapping and child sex trafficking. Public execution. We can talk about how long we torture them. We can talk about how they're killed. All right, maybe that's a little much. They need execute. No, justice. Don't kid yourself. Are you kidding me? People who think that killing an innocent child is or the same on an ethical level to executing a murderer, you're insane if you believe that. Justice requires that a baby be allowed to live. Justice requires that a kidnapper and someone selling a little girl or a little boy in sex trafficking, that their life is forfeit. So, I got one amen on the crowd. Thank you, sir. So, another thing, deal with the southern border. Deal with the southern border. That's where so much of this is happening. We've got a border where they know that the children are being brought in. It's abominable, it's treacherous, it's idiots. And the people who are in charge who want cheap labor for our crops or for our, standing outside of Home Depot. And I've hired them before. I don't say, can you show me your ID, please? Are you from America? I say, yeah, will you come and help me with my house? Let's go. I do. I'm not the government. The point is that our southern border is the fountain of a huge portion of the child sex trafficking. But I'm going to go one step further. All that you see happening, and I agree with you that the loss of life in Gaza is horrifying. So I do not support that. But all that we see happening, the hostility toward children, the animosity, look at the Democrat Party platform. They want to kill babies up to the day of birth. They want to tell children that here's a condom, here's the pill, here's some pornography. You've had sex education. Oh, little boy, you want to cut off your penis and become a girl? We'll do that. Little girl, you want to cut off your mammary glands and become a boy? We'll help you do that. This is a war on children. And that's why I say the Democrat Party must be destroyed.
So how do we put an end to the child sex trafficking in the United States? We put law enforcement on the job. We arrest those. We take those out of society. We remove them from our society. Why? And how can we do that? How can we do that? Well, we do that by removing the victimless crimes that don't need to be being prosecuted against in the first place. Because there's only so many hours in the day for law enforcement. And I would rather than focus on crimes of sex abuse of children or actual harm, physical abuse, force, fraud, coercion, theft, or violence. Those are the things I want police to be focusing on. But right now we have police focusing on all sorts of stupid regulations, trying to legislate and decide what you do peacefully in your own home as an adult, what you ingest or any other failed war on drugs. And so much of what we do is we live in an over-criminalized society that makes it hard for police to actually put their eye on the ball on the real violence that's occurring, the real victims that are being killed. And when we talk about the border, yes, we need to solve the border crisis. We need to make it easier for peaceful people to come in here and do those jobs and get hired by Randall outside of Home Depot. We need to make it easier for people to come here and work, because when we allow people to come here who are peacefully to come through a process that works, we can then put our eye on the ball for the people who are trying to traffic people across their border for the purposes of labor or sexual exploitation. But again, there's only so many hours in the day, and there's only so much capability for law enforcement out there. So let's free them up from having to fight victimless crimes that have no real need to be prosecuted against, and let's give them the thing that they need to be doing. Let's put their eye on the ball and say, go after people who commit violence in our country, whether it's against adults or children. When you're trafficking people, you're creating real harm. You're traumatizing people. You're ruining lives, and that deserves to be prosecuted against. And so if we're going to be putting the police and unleashing the police on anything, those are the people that I would like to see law enforcement take care of and get them out of my peaceful life and my peaceful existence so they can better punish those people and remove them from society.
Stop the flood of people fleeing disasters in their home countries coming into this country. if we want to address the crisis of immigration, the most important thing we can do is to stop causing it in the first place by regime change, operations, by overturning governments, by upending democracies through corporate domination in the economies. In Haiti, for example, Hillary Clinton, when she was Secretary of State, after the U.S. had overthrown Aristide for the second time, Hillary Clinton, also a member of this party that needs to be overthrown, went to Haiti and overturned Haiti's referendum. Haiti had doubled its minimum wage from 30 cents an hour to 60 cents an hour. How extravagant, 60 cents an hour. But Hillary Clinton didn't like what that meant for some of the clothing corporations sitting in Haiti for the cheap labor. So Hillary Clinton basically overturned the referendum passed by the people of Haiti. And this is the kind of interference in government south of the border that is creating the poverty and the chaos, the drug wars, creating the violence and so on, that is driving so many people into poverty and misery in those countries, often leading to sex trafficking and families that are not capable of caring for their children, that are immersed in poverty and cannot provide their children with a decent life. So yes, we can deal with sex trafficking through enforcement. We can also deal with our role in creating the conditions that lead to this terrible thing in the first place.
Right now, there are men and women sitting in federal prison for years whose crime was they did a peaceful sit-in at an abortion clinic of a man who kills babies up to the day of birth in Washington, D.C., San Diego. He's a demonic baby killer. They're in prison. I have a friend whose kid is in the FBI. He said, we have FBI agents that were pulled off of sex trafficking cases and child pornography cases and put on task force to go after peaceful pro-lifers because of this godless Democrat Party. And we've got people in the Democrat Party right now, even as we talk, that are trying to reduce the age of consensual sex so that pedophilia, another crime against children, is legal. Oh, it's just a choice that they want to make. We are witnessing a war on children, and the fountainhead of that war on children is the Democrat Party, and therefore I say, the Democrat Party must be destroyed.
All right. Our next question comes from Joe Schlusselberg from Miami, Florida. He writes, and I quote, "The overbearing response to COVID by the local and federal government was one of the biggest violations of human rights I've witnessed in my lifetime. In addition to state-sponsored propaganda and collusion with big pharma and media companies. What are your plans for investigating the handling of COVID, and how will you create accountability for those involved?" Chase, first.
So first and foremost, if I'm elected president, I'm going to appoint a special counsel at the Department of Justice to investigate everything that's gone wrong, to basically punish the wrongdoers, to find those who committed force or fraud or coercion, and punish those people. Because free people should be able to make their own medical decisions. We don't need the state apparatus telling us what to do or trying to lock us down or control us. It was one of the greatest violations of liberty in our life. We saw millions of businesses affected by arbitrary lockdowns that didn't stop the disease. We saw, the attempt of OSHA to mandate behavior that individual business owners and property owners should be able to determine for themselves, and frankly, individuals should be able to determine for themselves. And so the first thing we have to do is insist upon getting our government back under control and no longer allowing them to control these levers of power that basically force these things upon us. So in addition to a special counsel, I would also like to see removal of liability for all vaccine manufacturers, all pharma, because if you're harming somebody, you should be able to take them to court and seek recompense for that. And I think shielding the companies from liability is tantamount to basically being bribed by those companies to be peddled for influence. So I don't want to see that stuff. What I'd like to see is not only for the executive department or the executive branch rather be investigating this, be a special counsel, but we truly need a real with teeth COVID, a COVID committee in Congress to actually investigate these things. I would We encourage Thomas Massie to sit on that committee. But that's what we really need, is we really need our representatives in government to actually expose what went wrong, expose the wrongdoings from government, expose the fraud, expose the abuse, and bring it to light. Is the best disinfectant. Now, what I would see is a country where we're able to make our own healthcare decisions for ourselves. We fully remove the healthcare from the state. We are able to decide for ourselves what treatments we want to take, what injections we want to have, what therapies we want to undergo. And if you think it's a good idea, you shouldn't need the government to back that up, because good ideas don't require force. Thank you.
So I would especially like to see a special commission to investigate the potential lab leak as the origin of COVID, because very serious questions have emerged in the Lancet Commission, which did investigate this with Dr. Jeffrey Sachs, and came up with some very disturbing information. And still, the records are not released. Still, we do not have the information. It doesn't require going over to Wuhan, although that could be part of it. But there are records right here that could go a long way to clarify exactly how did this virus originate. And it's important not only to know what happened, but also to know what's coming. Because if the US is sponsoring this change of function research, this is potentially extremely dangerous going forward. We used to call that bioterror labs when we were fighting them in our communities, going some years back in Boston. So we absolutely need to know what went on there. In my view, we also need not only to get big pharma out of the FDA and the CDC, we also need to get Boeing out of the FAA, and we need to get Monsanto out of the FDA and the Sackler family also. This is a generic problem. Unfortunately, that goes way beyond COVID. To the opioid epidemic, for example, where the Sackler family bought influence, got the permissions that they wanted for fentanyl and for opioids, and we now have 100,000 deaths a year from addictions to opioids. So this is a generic problem related to the power of money in all of our governmental institutions. And that is why, in my view, I agree with Randall on this, we need to get the big money out. We need to get big money out of our government and get the people back in.
Thank you. My only brother died of a fentanyl overdose 2 years ago. It's hell, what we have going on in this country, right? So these are foretastes of hell. Earlier, I made a comment about executing people publicly. One of the purposes of punishment, whatever that punishment is to deter others. If there's not punishment brought to bear on the guilty parties of this COVID lockdown and the fake vaccines, hiding people dying, telling them we can't have ivermectin. I was sick with COVID. I was really sick. And my doctor prescribed prescribed ivermectin, and within 24 hours, I was feeling better. 40 hours, bang, I'm out of bed. And I went on my TV show, told people, I took ivermectin, I feel great. YouTube said, you got a strike against you, 2 more like that, and we're canceling your show. Wait a minute, I can't talk about this? Is this America? No, because corporate people are getting corporate money. And at this point, in my opinion, and it is somewhat studied, Big Pharma is new fascism and it's the new mafia. I mean, literally, we're dealing with organized crime. I want to know what Fauci knew, when he knew it, how much money he got, who did he get it from, and then if he's guilty of a crime, throw his ass in jail, let it rot there until he dies. I mean, every syllable. He is, in my opinion, he is an enemy of freedom. He's but again, you know, people can blame President Trump. He was listening to people he shouldn't have listened to. He reads clip notes way too much, all right? We know this, but it was when Biden came in and the Democrat Party said, man, we have got this thing. We are going to take away rights. We are going to do what we want to do. We are going to manipulate people. We're going to force people. We're going to force soldiers. We're going to shut down businesses. We are going to control people through the COVID crisis. And hello, that is why the Democrat Party must be destroyed.
Yes, I want to use this rebuttal real quick just to tell a story about the arbitrary and damaging nature of these lockdowns. I had a friend of mine who ran a flower shop. It was her live stream to run a flower shop. She loved flowers. She could name every flower in the book. And her business was closed down during COVID because it was unessential. Now, what was not closed down was the Lowe's Garden Center down the street because Lowe's sold essential items. And so that business got to stay open. That business was somehow shielded from COVID. No one could catch it in Lowe's, but only in the flower shop. And my friend's flower shop went under. It didn't survive. And where does my friend work now? At the Garden Center at Lowe's. She works for the big man now because they were allowed to stay open. They were allowed to keep their businesses going. That's the arbitrary nature of these stupid lockdowns. As far as Anthony Fauci, I'm going to say I've been distrustful of Anthony Fauci because of the ACT UP movements in the late 80s, early 90s. He's been a scumbag my entire life, well before COVID. And the last thing I want to say is Dr. Stein said we need to get big pharma out of the FDA. We need to get the FDA out of our government. We do not need the FDA.
Thank you. Thank you. Don't agree with that. I think we need the FDA.
Any other rebuttals?
Jill Stein is the only one who has rebuttal. Final rebuttal.
Is my time, okay. Let's see, I think was, Randall, you were talking, which of you, I don't remember, but you were talking about how it's not okay. You almost lost your show, your TV show, because you couldn't talk about COVID. And this is kind of like a general theme right now that we can't talk about things. And you're getting shut down for all kinds of stuff. If you're on campus and you want to talk about genocide, you're going to get your head bashed in, and you're going to get blacklisted, and you're going to get doxxed, and you are going to be thrown out of the university. We have this extremely anti-First Amendment environment right now, where our rights of free speech are being shut down, the right of media and reporters to cover issues. Kim Iverson was fired for critiquing COVID on the Hill. Brianna Joy Gray was also fired from the Hill for critiquing Israel and Zionism on the Hill. We need to be able to debate this stuff. Whether you agree with it or not doesn't matter. It's really important.
Thank you. Okay. So one more question before we're going to begin this speed round. And I believe all the rebuttals have been exhausted. So you'll have 2 minutes each for this one. And it's a very simple question. Do you support ending the Federal Reserve? Dr. Jill Stein.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dr.
Is that mine? Yeah, this is yes, no?
You have 2 minutes.
Oh, okay. I absolutely support ending the Federal Reserve.
If you want to elaborate, you have more time. Maybe you want to end there.
I'll stop there for now. I mean, the Federal Reserve, I'll say a few things. The Federal Reserve is serving private banks and makes decisions on their own behalf. And this does not serve the American public. I think there is a role for a public interest authority, but not for private banks to have a special power to make regulatory decisions on their own behalf. And I think that applies across the board to all regulatory agencies. You should not have foxes guarding the chicken coop, and that is what's happening with the Federal Reserve.
This is our final question where you have 2 minutes to respond. After this, we will have a speed round with 1 minute responses. But you have 2 minutes to respond to the question. Do you support ending the Federal Reserve?
Yes, absolutely. I support. Yes, yes, and then yes again. Yes. It is. So sometimes I feel like I don't want to preach to the choir. We're in a room full of people who knows that we need to get rid of the Federal Reserve. Period. I mean, so we do. I would rather use my 2 minutes to talk about anything, but something that we all agree on right now. So can I do that, or do I? What is
your 2 minutes?
My 2 minutes.
You have 1 minute, 30 seconds.
All right. My name is Inigo Montoya. 20 years ago, you killed my father. Prepare to die. Jesus said, he who harms a child, anyone who harms a child, would be better for that person to have a millstone tied around their neck drowned in the sea. Peaceful, loving Jesus said those words. Anyone who harms a child, it would be better for them if a millstone was tied around their necks and drowned in the sea. Now, if you look at the abuse of children that is happening across the board, intellectual abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, killing them by abortion, making drugs appear glamorous. This comes in our culture at a time when we are literally turning our backs on the Almighty, His rules, and we're making this stuff up as we go. Because if there is no God, then anything goes, literally anything goes. All you have at that point is preference. So I'm here to say to you something simple tonight, just kind of arm people who are thinkers and talkers. You can't improve on Moses and Jesus. You cannot improve on Moses and Jesus. Anyone who thinks that they can improve on the 10 Commandments and the Gospels, they are a fool and you need to run from them. And oh, by the way, one other thing, the Democrat Party must be destroyed.
Thank you, that's your time. And I want to remind our participants tonight, this is FreedomFest. You may use your time in any way that you decide. Thank you, Congressman. But the question, the original question is, do you support ending the Federal Reserve, Chase?
Yeah, the answer is hell yes, I do. Because I'm a libertarian, we've been fighting in the Federal Reserve for 50 years. That's why the Libertarian Party was formed, is because Nixon took us off the gold standard, started this whole fiat currency nightmare that we're currently existing in. And so, yes, I want to get rid of the Fed. Why? Because the Fed benefits the big banks at the expense of you. They are given money that's created by the Treasury that's loaned out at a rate of interest to you. You're not getting the money, the bank's getting money. That's the problem that we have. But we have a problem with the fiat currency that allows the government just to print money willy-nilly and devalue our money. Get it back to a gold standard. Get back to where our money is backed by something. Get back to where our money is actually worth something and quit having government print trillions of dollars to do it. So yes, completely, end the Fed. End the Fed today, end the Fed tomorrow, end the Fed every day and twice on Sundays. But I also want to talk about the insidious tools that the Fed are trying to use right now to remove cash from our society, namely the CBDC, central bank digital currency. It should be opposed by every single person in this hall with every fiber of our being, because it's going to remove the ability for us to privately transact with one another, to privately move our money around that we wish, because the government will know every single purchase you make under a CBDC, and that is how we get to the social credit score nightmare that we don't want to be living in. Now I feel like, as Wendell said, I feel like this is a very friendly room that's not like the Fed. I feel like I want to quote the great philosopher Stone Cold Steve Austin. When I say, if you want to end the Fed, give me a hell yeah. That's all yeah. Thank you very much.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Randall, we're going into the lightning round. So it's 1 minute response to this question. Would you bypass Congress to avoid formally declaring war?
I cannot hear you. What's that?
Would you bypass Congress to avoid formally declaring war?
If I was the president, there's times where you have to move quickly. So I believe that Congress needs to declare war, but the president, as the commander-in-chief, if he needs to move people in the night to deal with something, then he has to do it. So there you have it. I don't think it's hard and fast.
All right, thank you. Chase.
I would like to see Congress declare any war to which we enter ourselves into. Now, Randall says, you're right, we are allowed to protect ourselves from some sort of invasion or something that happens suddenly. But when it comes to us actually attacking someone else, none of that needs to be bypassing Congress. Congress needs to declare when we send our people to war, because that is what the Constitution demands that they be doing. And so anything outside of that is undeclared war, in my opinion, unconstitutional war. And so we haven't fought a constitutional war, not in my lifetime. Not since World War II have we had a formally declared war in this country. How many thousands of veterans are dead due to unconstitutional, undeclared wars? How many victims have been made through violence or displacement around the world due to undeclared wars in the United States? And how many military, industrial, complex people are freaking filthy rich because of the undeclared wars in this country? That is a stain on our national heritage. That is a stain on our values and our principles. It is a stain on the Constitution of the United States. No war should ever be fought without Congress declaring it.
Thank you, Chase. Jill.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both gentlemen here that the president does have the authority in an emergency situation to activate the armed forces for a limited period of time. I don't recall whether it's 4 weeks or something.
60 days.
60 days, okay. So yes, the president can do it, but I agree that we have gone so far in the direction of conducting illegal wars. You know, it begs for resistance to going down that path further. We have conducted regime change operations in about 70 or 80 states, nations since the Second World War. That's largely through the CIA, these covert operations that have toppled governments. Everything from the Mossadegh government in Iran, because we didn't want them using their oil for themselves. We wanted BP and the US to have access to that oil. So we overturned that government and installed the dictatorship of the Shah of Iran, who was an incredibly brutal and horrible dictator. So yes, we need to avoid using that power to all debate.
Thank you. Jason, do you support protecting presidents from prosecutions for potential crimes committed during their term?
Absolutely not. I think if I'm president of the United States, I should be undergoing the same criminal code as anybody else. If I do something wrong, it doesn't matter whether I'm doing it in my official capacity or unofficial capacity. A crime is a crime is a crime. No one should be above the law. And when we have this presumed immunity from the executive branch, we are giving license to do so many terrible things and say, well, that was in the auspices of my official capacity. I guess you're gonna have to take me to court if you want to try to overturn that or change that. That's not the way we need to be operating in this country. I'm sorry. No president should be above the law, because you and I are not above the law. And we should extend that to not just government officials, but also police through qualified immunity. We need to end these doctrines that allow people to get away with doing crimes because they ignore it. I was taught as a kid that ignorance of the law, it doesn't mean you can violate the law. So why is it that a president can be ignorant of the law in their official capacity and all of a sudden suffering or have immunity? I think that's wrong.
Thank you. Dr. Christie.
And it also allows the president to not be ignorant of the law and to still willfully violate the law. This is not a monarchy. This is a democracy or a republic, but we are all accountable to the law. No one is above the law. And it's an invitation to fraud, to abuse, to theft, to whatever, to war crimes, to, you know, the Supreme Court decision made a very fuzzy distinction between what are core functions of the presidency and what are not. But even if you just limited this ability to defy the law to even core functions, well, that's things like conducting war. And the president cannot conduct illegal wars, you know, and be a war criminal. It's giving absolute license to the most terrible.
This is the problem. What she said is the problem. This whole question is designed to completely undermine our republic and make it come unglued. So now, because the president is involved in declaring war or leading troops into battle, he could be a war criminal in another country. This is insanity, people. There are things that the president does in the official capacity of his duty that we will never know about. I mean, we want transparency, but if he has to, or if he chooses to authorize a military strike with cruise missiles like Bill Clinton did, and sometimes they hit the target and sometimes they miss it, and then civilians are killed. Are we going to say that Bill Clinton should be brought up as a war criminal?
Yes.
No. Then you know what? Let's do this. Let's go to the English model. Let's have the Queen of England, where we have a little puppet there who just once a year gives a little speech, and it's Parliament that has all of the power, and we don't have a strong executive office. If that's what you want to go for, then let's have that discussion. But that's not the system of government we have in America right now. He is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces.
Thank you.
And the Democrat Party is being destroyed.
All right, we'll start with Jill here. With the recent release of Julian Assange, do you support pardoning Julian Assange, Ross Ulbricht, Edward Snowden, and Leonard Peltier?
Yes, absolutely. I would say to Julian Assange and to Edward Snowden that there is a place for you in our White House. So we need you. You are a hero. You are not a criminal. You are a hero. And you should be compensated for the wrongdoing to you and your family. You should be compensated for time spent that was absolutely not deserved.
I have spent my entire adult life speaking truth to power with every fiber of my being. And I count these people, there's two of the names that I don't remember the crimes that they're accused of, but obviously Assange and Snowden, I would say, are you kidding me? Total pardons. Thank God that they did what they did. So that we know what the heck is going on in our government. We don't know how many other lies were being told. We don't know how many other criminal acts are being perpetrated against us. One of the major military manufacturers recently pled guilty. I think it was Boeing, about hiding details about that aircraft. They pled guilty to 2 felonies and they paid a big fine. Okay, who went to jail? Who was prosecuted? You know, a corporation doesn't have a butt to kick or a soul to damn. And that's part of the problem, that we need people that are held accountable for these crimes they're facing. And I thank God, literally thank God. I thought you were going to say, I want to tell Snowden there's a place in heaven for him. No, there's a place in the White House. But yes, I would pardon it.
Thank you.
After I was done destroying the Democrat Party.
So not only would I pardon Ross Snowden, Julian Assange, Ross Ulbricht, Edward Snowden, Julian Assange, and Leonard Peltier, that's actually part of my campaign website. It's something that I've been promising for 2 years as a candidate for president. Why? Because these things have nothing wrong. Leonard Peltier fought for Native American rights. He fought for Native American sovereignty. He should be celebrated for it. Ross Ulbricht created a website that you can buy drugs off of and was prosecuted and sent to multiple life sentences for that. Well, guess what? I can go on Meta right now on X, buy drugs if I want to, but I don't see Zuckerberg put in jail. I don't see Elon Musk in jail. They gave an example like Ross Ulbricht because they want to punish truth tellers and those fighting for freedom. And speaking of truth tellers, you have Julian Assange, Edward Snowden. Those men exposed the war crimes that our country perpetrated. They are heroes in my eyes. They should not be killed. And frankly, if I were president of the United States, vote those in getting the Presidential Medal of Freedom because it's about time he deserves it. Get that on.
Congress has given broad authority to the president to issue sanctions. Do you support the use of sanctions as a tool of diplomacy, and under what circumstances? Randall Terry.
Yes, I support the use of sanctions because it would be better than shooting. If we can use the dollar to leverage something. But again, my problem is human rights. So we've got Iran that we're using sanctions against. They're the devil. We've got Saudi Arabia that's our partner. They're Beelzebub. Literally, if you look at the oppression of human rights in Saudi Arabia, it's probably worse than Iran. So I feel sometimes like I'm riding on the good ship Lollipop, and I can't quite figure out who the good guys are and the bad guys are when it comes to foreign policy, which is why I keep coming back to saying our foreign policy needs to be based on human rights, not deep water ports, not oil, not so-called American interests that are economic. And if we can use sanctions, economic sanctions, in the pursuit of human rights, I'm all in favor of it. It's just to twist their arms so that they'll teach that homosexuality and giving condoms to kids is a great thing, like a country in Africa, then no, I'm not in favor of it.
Thank you. Chase?
Yeah, I'm not in favor of sanctions, and here's why. When we sanction a government, that doesn't really hurt the big people. That doesn't hurt the money movers and the influencers. That hurts the average person. When we sanction Russia, a lot of our people did not suffer. Trust me, he still has plenty of wealth and influence in this country. The people who suffer from those sanctions are the individuals in Russia, those who cannot no longer get along because their economic pictures are crushed by our sanctions. So no, I don't view that as a moral tool for foreign policy. We should be engaging in free and fair trade and market cooperation. Why? Because when we trade with people, we export freedom. It wasn't just Ronald Reagan that tore down the Berlin Wall. It was Wrangler jeans that did that because people wanted to import American influence and American products. That is what will tear down oppression, is true market cooperation and trade. Because for China, for instance, they can keep pumping up their currency and try to blow up their bubble, but eventually that bubble will burst. And when it does, the people will be crying out for liberalism, for freedom, and for the ability for free markets to make those decisions, and not the Politburo of the CCP.
The U.S. currently has sanctions against something like 1/3 of the world's population. And this is not a good thing for our image and for our respect in the world. We are bringing great misery and hardship to so many people. It's tens of thousands, I believe, that have been documented in Venezuela who were killed largely due to starvation with the sanctions against Venezuela. And you can look at Cuba and how that country has just been decimated for decades due to the sanctions. I think there are very unusual circumstances. Sanctions were used against South Africa and were helpful ultimately in overturning the apartheid state in South Africa. And likewise now, there is a call for boycott, divestment, and sanctions in Israel because there is a massive genocide of 500,000 people are at risk for starvation this month alone, and these are largely women and children. I don't know how anyone can conscience that. And this is, again, another situation where we should do what we can. Israel has the atom bomb. They're not going to go lightly into this.
Thank you. I think we're at the last, this will be the last question.
Yes, it is. Thank you. The last question here, we're going to go with Chase. The question is, according to the Department of Energy, the U.S. military alone emits more pollution than some nations. Would you support stricter environmental regulations to hold polluters accountable? Chase.
No, what I think we need to see, first off, if we want to reduce the amount of carbon output the United States military is doing, we need to stop having them bomb and kill people all over the world and engage in wars around. That would, of course, reduce the carbon. But I don't think that government central planners or a Green New Deal or bureaucracy is what's going to fix this. It's going to be the power of human innovation. It's going to be the power of free markets and somebody coming up with a market incentive to clean up our air, clean up our water, and get rid of carbon. And if we remove that profit incentive, if we put the incentives all in the realm of government, that is going to slow that innovation. And so I would like to see a cleaner world. I would like to combat carbon in the atmosphere. I just know that government is like the worst vehicle to do that. That there are much better ways to have that done, and I would trust the power of the free market, the power of innovators, and the power of individuals who want to see a cleaner world for them to live in to actually be the motivator for that, and not government taxpayer dollars being taken to pick winners and losers. Thank you.
So, I absolutely agree that government regulation is vulnerable. It's fraud, and it needs to be transparent. It needs to be watchdog. It needs to be exercised at the community level to the greatest extent possible, and it needs to be exposed and debated constantly. But on the other hand, we have not yet found a way to deal with certain problems that are so large that we cannot deal with them individually or on a community level. If you look at something like ozone, we did get a handle on ozone. We did fix that problem. We have not gotten a handle on the fuel problem. And what we're seeing outside now is what you will get, and it will keep getting worse. The Colorado River is about to dry out. You think we got inflation now? Just wait until our food system shuts down. Half the fruits and vegetables are about to go down here in this country. We have to get serious about eliminating fossil fuels at all levels of society.
Thank you.
Over time, I've grown to resent the notion that the United States of America is the villain in the world over over fuels, over oil. Look at China, look at India, and they scoff at us. They are laughing because they are polluting the air and they don't care. And they love to see us strangle our own economy. Who do you think was clapping when Biden shut down drilling and shut down the pipeline? It was our enemies that were clapping. They know what the devastation that brings to us. But I want to go one step further. Everybody in this room wants clean air. Everyone wants clean water. No one wants dirty air and dirty water. But I find a level of hypocrisy in a lot of the parties and a lot of people who want a green and beautiful world. Do not pollute the land in which you live, for bloodshed pollutes the land. Shed no innocent blood in the land, for blood pollutes the land. Again, the chaos that we're going through as a country is because we are shedding innocent blood, and it is polluting the land.
Thank you. Well, that ends our questions, and we're going to go into closing statements. So let's close with those as predetermined by random draw. We are going to start with Mr. Terry. You have 2 minutes.
It has been an absolute privilege to be with you tonight. And I want to invite anybody and everyone in this room, and those of you who are watching on television, go to our website, terry2024.com, terry2024.com. My mission is simple: defend children, defeat the Democrat nominee, and to destroy the Democrat Party. How do we destroy the Democrat Party? The largest single voting bloc inside the Democrat Party is Roman Catholics. The second largest voting bloc is African Americans. Both of these communities say that they are pro-life. They want to protect children. And yet, because of momentum over historic connections, we have people that know better that are voting for Democrats. The purpose of our campaign is to run television ads because we are a federal campaign. We can run ads inside the 60-day window that say, this is what you're voting for if you vote for the Democrat nominee. This is what the Democrat Party stands for. The abuse of children, the killing of children, the molestation, the mutilation of children. The Democrat Party is literally in league with hell. It is a fortress of evil. It is a fountain of malice against children, and it must be destroyed. Now, the Whig Party's gone, Southern Democrat Party's gone, the Dixiecrats are gone. Maybe it'll take 3 years, maybe it'll take 30 years, but we have to set our sights on the Bismarck and be that two-wing biplane, right? Or David and Goliath. Let's be the stone and let the Democrat Party be Goliath, and let's bring it down. And then when we're auctioning off their computers and their tables and their buildings, let's use some of that money for reparations to the Black community who are the victims of Black genocide because of Democrat policy. Say it with me. The Democrat Party must be destroyed. Thank you for having me.
So I want to thank Hreen Equal for hosting this debate, because unlike CNN or ABC, they actually invite all of the candidates to participate. I want to thank FreedomFest for being a gathering of people who care about markets, who care about human innovation, and the ability for us to do better things than what our government thinks we can do. I'm a libertarian because I know deep down that there are so many things that we can do so much better if we remove government from the process. That government is inefficient, government is violent, and government is terrible. And in so many areas of our economy, human flourishing could be so much more quickly achieved if we got government out of the way. So I'm running for office because I want to put the ideas out there of limited government, of individual human rights, and the fact that we can organize ourselves free from government influence and the monopoly of force that government provides, and do a better job of it. Now, I want to say this. One thing we libertarians get slandered with all the time is that we don't care. Oh, you're selfish, you're individualistic. You only care about yourself and your rights. But we need to flip that around and understand that the message of liberty, the concept of human liberty, is actually an empathic message. It's one that says you can control your life, you can make those decisions, you know what's best for you, not me, and certainly not some unelected board of bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. or your state house. That is a powerful message that so many Americans need to hear right now, because they are being indoctrinated from both the left and the right that the government must be the solution for them. The government is not the solution. We are the solution. Our individual communities are the solution, and our God-given human rights are the solution. And so I'm running for office to challenge the two-party system, to tear it down brick by building up an independent party that's independent of the two-party system, piece by piece. That's what I want to do. I want Americans to know they are not limited with two terrible, old, broken choices. We do not have to listen to politicians of the 20th century to find solutions for the 21st. And that's why I'm running for office. My name is Chase Oliver. I'm a libertarian candidate. Go to votechaseoliver.com and tear the system down brick by brick. Let's set the world free in our lifetime. Thank you.
So this is definitely an historic moment, and we're seeing crises that we have never seen before. Between the endless wars, the genocide abroad, the crushing inequality in this country, which gets greater by the day, climate collapse, and the assault on democracy in so many ways. In virtually every dimension of our lives, people are facing crisis. And the need for deep systemic change has never been so urgent, and the possibility of that change has never loomed so large, because people are not willing to sit here and take it. People are done being thrown under the bus by bought politicians and wealthy elites. People are done with the war profiteers and Wall Street and APAC and health insurance and big pharma and fossil fuel giants and more who are making out like bandits. While 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, half of renters are struggling to keep a roof over their heads. Homelessness is at a record high. Countless millions are locked in student debt and medical debt. Half of youth are hopeless about the future, and a lot of that is because of the climate. 1/4 of youth have considered harming themselves within 2 weeks of the poll. We are not in a good way, folks. And meanwhile, both parties are squandering trillions on the endless war machine. Martin Luther King's words still ring true: my country is the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today. Yet we are squandering billions funding and arming Israel's genocide in Gaza. Likewise, billions of our tax dollars are adding fuel to the fire in the unwinnable, tragic proxy war in Ukraine that could have been avoided altogether or rapidly resolved had the U.S. not interfered. War goes hand in hand. The war abroad goes hand in hand with the war at home and the war on democracy. They need to be solved together because they are joined at the hip. We need to stand up and demand that we have a world that's working for all of us on all of those counts. Go to jillstein.org. jillstein.org.
Jill. Ideas. And Representative Massie, I wanted to take a moment off the cuff here and pay tribute this debate to your wife, Raja.
Thank you.
And you're here, and it means the world to our country and what you have done to make change from within a very flawed system. More and more people are seeing it, and I hope they see it this debate. So I wanted to get your closing remarks, how you feel about the debate tonight.
Thank you. You know, since I'm an elected Republican, I signed a sworn statement that I'm a Republican in order to be in that party. And sometimes I have a hard time casting that vote, but I have since I've been elected. I kept my word. So my wife Rhonda would oftentimes cancel that out by voting third party for me. I'm glad to report I sat here as an unrepentant Republican, and I may repent later for my sins, but I didn't burst into flames. These ideas, some of them are an anathema to my existence, but some of them, many of them are better than the principles my own party espouses. So I think it was good to have this debate. I went to school not for politics, but for engineering. And they taught us to do lots of R&D. You may think you know what R&D is, but it stands for rip off and duplicate. and I plan to R&D several of these ideas tonight. And use them in Congress. And I want to give you some hope. I told you that, you know, etched into granite and marble and oak and mahogany is the two-party system. But in 2015, I discovered by studying the parliamentary rules that oftentimes when the uniparty is in action, when both parties decide to debate positively for the same bill, a third person could go to the microphone and claim 1/3 of the time on the floor of Congress. And I did that, the first time I've seen it was when I did it in 2015 in Congress. And they weren't expecting it, you know. But the good news is other people are doing that now in Congress, and I've seen it done at least half a dozen times in this Congress alone, where a third person steps up. When the Republicans and Democrats are in lockstep, doing something bipartisan, which means, as George Carlin said, you're getting screwed bigger than normal. He might not use those words. But when they're doing something that, you know, they're proud of and it's bipartisan, a lot of times it's the uniparty and it's not good for this country. And I will tell you, we will keep alive debate like you did tonight. We will keep it alive in Congress. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Massie. I foresee one day Congress, two parties D's and R's being replaced with a whole bunch of Massies. What do you think? And I want to thank our audience for watching. Starting now, you can vote for the debate winner at freeandequal.org on our ranked choice online voting app that is powered by nexus.io. You have 72 hours to vote online at freeandequal.org for your favorite candidate tonight. Since 2008, the Free and Equal Elections Foundation has worked to ensure every citizen is fully informed about their political choices. As a nonprofit organization, we rely on your support to continue our mission. So tonight, we are launching a crowdfunding campaign with all funds going directly to the production of our fourth 2024 presidential debate this September. By donating, you become part of an independent movement dedicated to amplifying diverse voices and ensuring fair elections. Visit freeandequal.org to contribute. We look forward to seeing you at our next debate in September. And on behalf of Representative Massie and myself, thank you and good night.
Small bottle free, the dog in the center, who claim to be Christian, who shouting illegal, who claim to be listening on the pendulum swings, but I can't stop the pull. Our elections are travesties paid for in full by a gang full of sellers who worship a bull. Why can't it all just be free and equal?
Hey everyone, I hope you've been enjoying our coverage here at Freedom Fest. I hope that you got to see, you were interested in listening to Robert F. Kennedy, and that you were able to hear interesting things in the debate tonight. I look forward to seeing some of the content, the comments. I'm working on a lot of content for you guys right now. Several interviews that I was doing while the events were happening here. But I look forward to hearing more from you guys. Please like, share, subscribe. It is your support that is making this possible. It's the only reason why I'm able to be in touch like we have been, to be able to do the coverage here. It's a little bit late here in the event, but I thank each and every one of you for checking in. I thank each and every one of you for your comments. I want to again thank Larry Sharp for his support in getting me out here to be able to cover this event. And I know there's going to be more coverage on the Sharp Way. Until the next time, folks, I want you to be well. I want you to be happy. I will be here tomorrow for Freedom Fest. There's still Maj Toure. There's Spike Cohen. I'll be doing an interview with him. And possibly Thomas Massie. Don't want to guarantee that. I'm trying, folks. And a couple of other very special guests that we'll be speaking with. We the People may be of interest to you. A new organization, a new program, way to interact with our candidates, our legislators, to be more responsive to the people. We're going to be trying to bring all that content to you tomorrow here at Freedom Fest for day 4. I'm looking forward to talking to each and every one of you. Again, I want you to be well. Talk to you soon.